Real quick,
cool.
Tim, go ahead, read your verse. I have something else, but go ahead, read your verse.
There hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able. But with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it.
All right, so Tim, just real quickly, what's the truth in that? Just rephrase
what
it.
I've gotten from previous counseling with Pastor, he told me, he kind of broke the verse down, and I learned that, yes, you're going to be tempted as a Christian. You're going to be in a constant battle with the devil, but God, number one, gives you an escape, and number two, God wants you to rely on him, I think, more for the escape. He's not just going to be like, all right, here's your way out, go do it. Yeah. He wants you to be like, God, get me out of this. Yeah. Because I can't do it. So that's kind of what I draw from that verse. Yep,
dependence. I think that's an underrated activity of the Christian is dependence. I don't want to get off on that. Anyways, that's good though. I was gonna say this is. Do you struggle at all with procrastination? You do, okay? Because I know I do.
It's not good, guys.
And it's something that I've actually struggled with for. I don't know. I probably struggled with most of my life. But the thing about procrastination, I'm learning this now, and it's not just my own thoughts or anything like that. I mean, I've read some stuff, looked into it a little bit. But procrastination is driven by two things. It's driven by either guilt, which we just talked about, which is maybe even more specifically shame, in the sense that like, oh, this is who I am. Maybe you struggle with this, and your thoughts of yourself are kind of negative because you see yourself for who you are, and you're like, okay, so procrastination, so guilt, and then the other thing is anxiety. All right, but what is anxiety? Right? When you really break anxiety down, what it is it's problems without solutions. Right? So you have a problem and you're like, I don't know what to do. And when you dwell on that, you get anxious, right? So when let's say you deal with procrastination, all right? Let's just use the messy room illustration. So here your room is messy. It's messed up. And you're sitting in your room, okay? What's going to keep you from cleaning your room in that moment right there as you notice it? Okay, it's probably going to be one of two things. Okay, maybe you're like, well, let's go ahead and dive into it. So one, guilt. You're like, hey man, like I'm a messy person. This is who I am.
Lies.
Yeah, maybe it sucks, but this is who I am, and I just have to accept it, right? Or you say, hey, or you're like, like maybe you just had a bad day, and you're just like, I'm not this kind of person. Okay, I'm not a clean person, whatever. You're beating yourself up. The second thing is you're anxious, right? So there's things that are driving that. So maybe you would say, well, like I have all these things going on, I just don't have time, and there's no solution to your current problem, right? Where you could sit down and you could say, okay, hold on a second. Maybe I don't have time, right? Maybe I'm busy. Maybe I don't know what to do with that item over there, right? But what he's saying is if you can identify one thing, right? 1, 2, 3, whatever, right? You identify one thing and say, oh, I can fix that. I can make my bed, right? I can put that away. You identify one thing at a time, but what kills procrastination is action. It's just taking action. And I think you have to see it as smaller steps, because that's how I've had to see it, is more just, I can't fix my problems. Like I want to, but I can't do it all at once, but I definitely can take steps. But what it does is when you take a step to doing that, you kind of get energized. You're like, oh wait, it's actually not as big as I was thinking. So maybe you're like, oh, school, or maybe you're like, oh, I don't know, you just fill in the blank. But the more you can break it down and say, well, what's something I can do? Because what you're doing is you're giving yourself a solution. You're saying, oh, it's not as hard. I don't have to be anxious about this because it's not that hard. I can just take 100 steps or 10 steps and I'll get this complete. Does that make sense? So you don't have to dwell on it and be like, there's no answer. It's like, no, there is. There's probably one thing you can do. And if nothing else, I know this is corny, but if nothing else, you can pray. And so maybe you're sitting about a situation, you're like, oh, this is down the road. Like, okay, getting married, whatever. You're like, I'm anxious about that. Okay, sit down and pray about it. Like, there's not a lot you can probably do about that. But I'm telling you, God can give you peace, and he can help you help bear that burden with you. So there's always something you can do, but I'm telling you, there's a benefit in taking time and dwelling in your thoughts, but coming out with action. Otherwise, you're just going to end up spiraling down. So if you're not coming with action, if you're not coming with hope, you're going to end up spiraling down. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I know, because I kind of do struggle with the same thing, But that's been my way out. It's like, no, like he was saying, you got it. If you're going to go down the abyss, so to speak, you got to come away with action and you got to come away with hope. Like, it's okay. This is my life. It is what it is, but there's hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's obviously found in God. But
And
anyways,
sometimes that mindset can create an upward spiral.
Yeah,
absolutely.
well,
Like,
The momentum,
it gets
you
better.
start building momentum, and now instead of spiraling down, now you take those steps. You realize the problem was only 10 steps worth. I thought it was 100 steps worth, but it's only 10 steps. Now I'm spiraling up, and that creates momentum.
I saw a video today on Instagram, and the guy said, he's like, everybody talks about downward spiraling. This guy, he gets his heart broken, whatever. He starts drinking, and then he loses all his friends, so he drinks even more, and then he's like, it's going down. And then he's like, and then you look at the guy who, like, you know, he sees where he's at, he wants to change it, and then, you know, he's like, all right, I'm unhealthy. I go to the gym. He's more energized. His mental state's better. Gets a better job. Makes more money. Goes to a better gym, and it's just an upward.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, I was gonna
look at it both ways.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can't really fix other people until you can fix yourself. So that's one thing. So you want confidence, be able to know how to improve yourself, fix yourself. That'll give you confidence to do it for others. Look at me. That's an example of that. I have confidence to help you guys if you want my help, because I can help myself at least to some degree effectively. Second thing is understand that fear is typically a mile wide and an inch deep. What do I mean by that? I mean that typically when you step out in fear, like you feel fearful and you step out, typically it's very shallow. It looks really scary, right, Jay? Like it looks super wide and like there's a lot to be afraid of, but you're like, oh wait, it's very shallow. Like you stick through it a little bit and you're like, this wasn't so bad. And then the third thing I'll say too is when it comes to just things in general, you're never going to start unless you commit, and you're never going to finish unless you're consistent. So when it comes to your situation, what I would say is commit to cleaning your room. In a sense, I mean, commit to organizing your mind, and you can be more specific with that, if that makes sense. But you have to commit to start off. Like, look, this situation or just my life in general, something is not all it can be, and I'm going to commit to improving this, and I will improve this, and then be consistent in doing that, right? But that's the only way you're actually going to see whatever thing through is if you're consistent. So I would say maybe every day, if you have a thought, you're like, maybe I don't really want to think about this, but just this once, I'm going to think about it, and then I'm going to write down like what's bothering me and what I'm going to do about it. So essentially, yes, but whatever. It's like, yes, I'm feeling anxious, or yes, I'm having relationship issues, but here's what I'm going to do to fix the problem. I do it all the time. I do it probably daily. Like when I'm just writing, like it happens because there's a lot of negatives in my life. Whatever, not a big deal. But I write out the negatives and then I finish with the positive. Like, here's what I'm going to do to improve. And then over time, like I said, if you're consistent, if it's one thing, it might not take that long, but even if it's like your entire life, like you feel like man, my life's a mess. Over time, you'll get there if you just remain consistent. But you have to commit to fixing whatever needs to be fixed and then remain consistent.
It's like giving yourself mini solutions. So it's like I'm doing this because I want to fix this, but I'm going to do it because I'm going to give myself a mini solution, and that takes weight off your brain. You know, because you're anxious because you're like, there's no answer.
That's what emotions are for. So they want you to act. They want you to do something. It's like your emotions would tell you, stop climbing the tree so high, or stop. Why are you driving next to a cliff? You shouldn't do that. Your emotions are wanting you to like take action or be careful or something. Your emotions are trying to tell you something. So say yes, I hear you to the emotions, and say, but here's what I'm going to do to improve this situation. And you're essentially addressing the emotions, confronting them, and then giving them some kind of a solution so that things calm down.